of one of the most notorious unsolved mass killings in American history. 40 years ago, 7 people died in Chicago and its suburbs. One family paid the greatest toll. 3 died, all within a few hours. The common denominator, they all took extra strength Tylenol. That discovery led to the removal and destruction of Tylenol bottles nationwide. CBS 2 investigator Dave Savini traveled to Wisconsin in this heart-wrenching interview with the surviving members of the Janus family.
When I see this bottle, it takes me back to the most tragic moment of my family's life.
Monica Janus was just a child when a killer deliberately laced Tylenol capsules with cyanide and placed the tainted bottles on the shelves of stores around the Chicago area.
Do you think they'll ever solve this crime?
I hope so. Before I die, I hope I see the person.
The death of 35-year-old Paula Prince stunned her family and friends. Her body was discovered last night inside her apartment on Chicago's near north side.
People were poisoned, and as the body count started to rise,
this product may be contaminated with cyanide and should be destroyed.
So did the fear.
Paula was murdered. She was just murdered.
Cyanide-contaminated Tylenol has been responsible for 3 deaths in the Arlington Heights area. Do not take Tylenol until further notice.
It was everywhere because Tylenol's a thing that everyone uses.
There were 7 confirmed cases.
12-year-old Mary Kellerman was a student at Jane Addams Junior High in Schaumburg, and according to school officials, she had a cold, which is probably why she took the contaminated Tylenol. She died yesterday morning.
It was 40 years ago to the day, September 29th, 1982.
It was very scary and sad to think, wow, our family is just falling and dying.
3 members of Monica Janus's family were murdered. She was only 8 at the time.
Everybody's sobbing and crying.
Just a few years younger than her daughter, Isabel.
On September 29, 1982,
Isabel recently wrote an essay for school on how the Tylenol murders destroyed her family.
What kind of a person does something like that?
an evil person that just doesn't care about people.
In Chicago today, city inspectors began checking stores to be certain all Tylenol was off the shelf.
Serial killer.
Yeah.
Her great uncle, Adam Janus, a physically fit 27-year-old mailman, wasn't feeling well when he woke up for work. He unknowingly bought tainted Tylenol at Jewel in Arlington Heights and collapsed later at home.
So when they told my family that he died from a heart attack, they couldn't believe it. They're like, why would he die from a heart attack?
At first, the family was told Adam's heart failed, and after they wept over his body, they left the hospital. Her other great uncle, Stanley Janus, and newly wedded wife, Teresa, then went to Adam's house. The tainted bottle was still there. They weren't feeling well and reached for the pills.
So then Stanley and Teresa took it because they had a headache. Later on passed.
We all love each other, you know.
Joe Janus is the older brother of Adam and Stanley. They all came to Chicago from Poland for a better life.
My brothers were it was everything to me.
All had good jobs. Joe and Stanley owned an auto parts store.
Everything we try so hard in this country was going okay for us, and one day everything fell apart.
Joe was with Stanley as the poison kicked in.
He just fell down. And when he fell, his mouth was white stuff was coming out from his mouth. His eyes turned backwards, I seen, you know. So they called the ambulance.
When the ambulance arrived, Teresa also collapsed.
Just awful. One of the worst calls I've ever been on in my life.
Chuck Kramer, an Arlington Heights Fire Department lieutenant at the time, was working on Stanley when Teresa grabbed him and fell.
As soon as I turned her over, a second ago she was holding on my arm, and now she's there and her eyes are fixed and dilated and non-reactive to light again.
The amount of cyanide she had in her would have killed 26 elephants.
What kind of person opens up a capsule and fills it with cyanide and puts it back in a jar and puts it on a shelf?
He's an animal that he kills people with no fear.
19-year-old Theresa Janis and 25-year-old Stanley Janis were married in this church just 3 months ago.
Images of their caskets and Adam's casket at the altar created even more panic and pain.
I remember my father approaching Adam's coffin, and he just couldn't take it. He literally threw his body on top of my uncle, and the coffin almost tipped over. I'll never forget that. It was terrible just seeing that.
What are you thinking about right now?
I don't feel like, living anymore.
40 years, guys. What a tragedy for your family. Our Father, who art in heaven.
When you speak of the victims, you speak of them as family.
Yeah. That was real hard.
The Janis killings were the key to finding all 7 deaths were caused by tainted Tylenol. Chuck Kramer was part of a team that quickly made that heroic discovery.
It brings back a lot of memories.
Meet retired nurse Helen Jensen. She's also one of those heroes. She worked the Janis case along with Kramer. Both suspected there was something deadly inside the Tylenol.
I got a phone call from the fire department, from Chuck Kramer.
They compared notes from all 3 Janis deaths. And then Nurse Jensen sounded the alarm at the hospital where Adam, Stanley, and Teresa all died.
I went back to the emergency room, presented it to the medical examiner and the police, and they laughed at me.
She was already saying, it's got to be Tylenol. The 3 people took Tylenol. And they weren't believing her at that point.
I stamped my feet. I was angry. No, I really did. I reiterated it has to be, and this is why it has to be. And I can get very adamant. But they did not believe me.
To prove her theory, she actually went over to the Janis home to search for the original bottle of Tylenol. Each of the Janises had taken 2 capsules before they died.
And I went into the bathroom and found a bottle of Tylenol. And I brought it out to the kitchen with one of the police officers. I opened it and counted the pills. And there were 6 pills missing, and there were 3 people dead. I said, it has to be the Tylenol.
Then she kept searching the home for any other kind of clues.
I also went through the garbage and found the receipt that this had been purchased at Jewel that morning. I'm holding it, the bottle and the receipt. And I laid it out in front of the medical examiner, and I counted it again and told him the same thing. There are 6 capsules missing. There are 3 people dead. There has to be a correlation. Oh, no, that's fine. The Tylenol's fine.
Meanwhile, Chuck Kramer was also still piecing together clues and tracked down a paramedic who responded to 12-year-old Mary Kellerman's emergency. She was the 12-year-old junior high student who earlier that day collapsed at her parents' home in Elk Grove Village.
A little girl died this morning in Elk Grove, and she took Tylenol. And it's the same symptoms: rapid shallow breathing, fixed dilated pupils, and non-reactive.
He, like Nurse Jensen, also reported his findings to hospital officials, but no one was believing either of them.
Yeah, I was angry. I went home. I was very upset. I was teary. I had a stiff drink and talked to my husband. And I finally went to bed. At 5:30 in the morning, he got up really early. And he came in to me. He said, Helen, you're right. They're saying it on the news. It was Tylenol.
Lab analysis of the crystals of cyanide may lead investigators to the manufacturer.
Jensen and Kramer were instrumental in the action that came next, the immediate removal of all Tylenol from stores and homes, saving an unknown number of lives from other potentially poisoned capsules.
Dave?
Hi, Chuck.
Okay, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Okay.
Are you ready to do this?
All right, we're going to give it a try.
All right, well, we'll see you over by the grave.
Okay.
40 years later, the now 81-year-old Chuck Kramer still often manages to visit the Janis family graves to pay his respects.
I want to thank him for doing that. Coming and see my brother's grave.
You're all connected.
Yes. Well, someday we'll be all connected upstairs. Yeah, that's what they say.
What's the main emotion you feel when you stand here and you look at this?
Anger that someone would do that.
He prays one day Isabel, Monica, and Joe Janis and the rest of their family will find closure and see justice.
I watched family end. I don't know how anybody could do anything like that.
And as the killer remains free, the Janis family says after all these decades, Arlington Heights police and the FBI have yet to reach out to Joe Janis about the status of his family's murder case.
He said that no detective, no agent ever contacted him to update him ever.
Never. Nobody approached him. No police, no detectives, nobody.
What do you think of that?
I think it's absolutely the strangest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Your father deserves to know.
He does deserve to know. I just see him cry all the time.
Joe Janis moved his family away from Chicago to the Wisconsin Dells, a new life with his daughter Monica and grandchildren, including Isabel. But the family never escapes the pain. It's embedded in their DNA.
It's hard for me to live. But I still got my daughter, my son, my grandchildren. I gotta live for them.
I truly believe that justice will be done, if not in this lifetime, then in the next. In loving memory of Adam Janis, Stanley Janis, and Teresa Janis.
Less work jam and more workflow with Monday.com.
Monica and her father, Joe Janis, say the only time they ever spoke with police was last year. Monica got an anonymous tip. She's the one who contacted police. They've heard nothing since. Dave Savini, CBS 2 Investigators.
Joining me now, friend of the stream, always good to have you, CBS 2 investigator Dave Savini. Dave Savini, thanks so much for your time. Tell us a bit, I know it's hard to encapsulate, just how much this family has been through.
Well, when you think about the Tylenol murders, no family faced a greater amount of tragedy than this family. 3 people died, all within a few hours of each other. Adam Janis was a mailman, and he lived in Arlington Heights, and he was a very physically fit guy. They were called suddenly, the rest of the family, and they said Adam had had a heart attack and was dead. So they rushed to the hospital out in the Arlington Heights area. They lived on the northwest side of Chicago, the rest of the Janis family. And they get to the hospital, they're weeping over Adam Janis's body, and they decide to go back to Adam's house to plan the funeral. And when they get to Adam's house, a couple of the people in the family were experiencing headaches and some back pain. So Stanley Janis, another brother, and his wife, Teresa Janis, his newlywed wife, they go into the medicine cabinet and they grab what was basically a brand new bottle of Tylenol that Adam had bought that morning because he called in sick for work that day and went over to the local jewel store and bought that bottle of Tylenol. They, of course, then took the Tylenol, the tainted Tylenol, unknowingly, and they dropped to the floor, collapsed with symptoms that all these other people had been dying from in the Chicago area, but they were all isolated cases. This was the first time that there was a mass group of people, and they're significant. Their deaths are super significant to stopping the sale and destroying the Tylenol that was out there on the shelves, because they were the linchpin. They were the case that put it all together, where everyone zeroed in on the Tylenol.
Before we get to that, Dave, let's transport people, because we've been working on this for months. We have some remarkable file footage. Let's take people back 40 years to the CBS 2 archives to take a look at some of the emotion from that time.
19-year-old Teresa Janis and 25-year-old Stanley Janis were married in this church just 3 months ago. Today, their caskets were carried by members of their wedding party. Services for Stanley's brother, 27-year-old Adam Janis, were held here too.
Adam took it. He died first, and then Stanley and Teresa took it because they had a headache. Later on passed.
The amount of cyanide she had in her would have killed 26 elephants.
What kind of person opens up a capsule and fills it with cyanide and puts it back in a jar and puts it on a shelf?
He's an animal that he kills people with no fear.
No detective, no agent ever contacted him to update him ever.
Never. Nobody approached him. No police, no detectives, nobody.
What do you think of that?
I think it's absolutely the strangest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Your father deserves to know.
He does deserve to know. I just see him cry all the time.
The toll really hits home when you see one family and 3 caskets. And when you conducted your interviews over the past several months with the Janus family, they said repeatedly they had never been contacted by really anyone from the task force, any investigators for 4 decades. Is that still the case?
Yeah, imagine that. And that is the case. As a matter of fact, the only time anyone from the Janus family talked to the authorities, according to the family, is when Monica Janus called the police to say she had gotten an anonymous tip about a year ago. So she relayed the information to them, and that was it. No one's ever updated them, kept them in the loop on what's happening, just checked in to see how they're doing. This family really has lost all hope that the real killer will ever be found. Joe Janus doesn't want to go to his grave without seeing the day that the man or woman responsible for this heinous crime is finally brought to justice.
Dave, part of the remarkable story about the Janus family here is they were really the linchpin in the investigation. People otherwise healthy, young individuals were dropping dead in Chicago and greater Chicago for 24 hours and nobody knew why. It was the Janus family and really a rather heroic paramedic and a heroic nurse who added it up with the family. Did they not? They made the connection between the deaths and something with Tylenol, correct?
Exactly. When you think about what those 2 individuals did, Lieutenant Chuck Kramer from the Arlington Heights Fire Department, who was in charge of the EMS scene that night at the Janus house, 2 calls to that house in one day. Adam with the heart attack, and then brother and sister-in-law also fall with similar symptoms. So Lieutenant Kramer shows up, and as he shows up, Teresa Janus, the wife of Stanley, is falling on him. They're there for Stanley, who's already on the ground, eyes rolled back, white stuff coming out of his mouth, and now his sister, or his wife, is on the ground. And you have Lieutenant Kramer. He doesn't know what's happening here. He doesn't know if there's a carbon monoxide leak, a gas leak. He doesn't know some sort of infectious disease going on. He's trying to figure out what happened. And all he knew was that they all took Tylenol. Now, he was friends with this nurse who he told the same story to. And she said, it's got to be the Tylenol. So Nurse Helen Jensen goes over to the house and searches the house and finds a Tylenol bottle. And you know, they Tylenol bottles and all kinds of pill bottles, you can buy 100 pills, 120 pills. It usually says on the bottle. She counts the pills and realizes that there are 6 pills missing from that bottle. She also finds the receipt in the trash can of where he bought that Tylenol bottle earlier in the day at Jewel. She did so much investigative work, and so did Lieutenant Kramer, that they brought that information back to the medical director at the hospital and said, it's got to be the Tylenol. It's got to be the Tylenol. By 5 o'clock in the morning, the next day, everyone in Chicago, every news station blasting out, police on bullhorns. It's Tylenol. Do not take Tylenol. The panic, the fear was everywhere. Children in schools, teenagers in high school were told to bring any Tylenol they might have in their lockers or in their purses to the school offices to be destroyed.
It's a remarkable story. And looking back at some of that file footage you and I have, Dave, over the past several months of working on this, I mean, Halloween was actually canceled in certain communities because there was such a fear over tainted candy, tainted food. It really changed the game here.
You know, Brad, there's a human element here. There's a toll, and we talked about the toll this family took. And I want to kind of touch upon a little bit about the Janus family. Their father, Joe Janus's father, brought him and his brothers over from Poland when they were young boys for a better life.
His father was never the same after this. He felt responsible for what happened to his children, his grown sons. He felt like it was his fault. Had they stayed in Poland and not come over here, this might not have ever happened.
Dave, another remarkable and telling interview you got. Monica Janis was just 8 years old at the time. She lost three relatives, and she remembers, you know, specifically these crystallized memories, FBI being around, etc. And here we are, a generation or two removed from that, and the recall of that event is total.
Imagine that again. I mean, she was just a little girl. She was in elementary school in Chicago, in the suburbs, Morton Grove area, and she had agents placed around her school. She had a brother as well, and they were all around the perimeter. They would watch them when they were on the playground. They would ride on the bus with them from school to home and vice versa. They would be in the near the classrooms. They would be not seen. There was an idea, there was a speculation that possibly they were a target and that some madman or some devious person was going to come back and maybe spy on them or watch them. They also had cameras, as they told me, that were placed far away, focused on the graves at that cemetery. Outside of the cemetery, there are fences around the perimeter, and there were people in cars watching the graves to see if the killer might come back to stand over the graves, some form or fashion of a visitation, whether a sickening fascination or maybe it was personal, maybe it was somebody. So this is what was going on in their lives at very young age. FBI involvement, agents everywhere. That was the kind of hysteria that we were dealing with at that moment.
Yeah, I mean, you often hear about criminals returning to crime scene, criminals keeping tokens from victims, if you will. Part of your story that also touched me, you're dealing now with really 4 generations, if you will, of one family. I mean, you want to talk about multi-generational trauma. It may not be embodied in any more family than it is the Janis family here from Greater Chicago. Lost 3 loved ones in the Tylenol killings of 1982. They now have a granddaughter in Wisconsin who recently took up a school project. Dave?
So Isabel Janis, Monica's daughter, was asked to write a special essay, all the kids were in her class, on their heritage, their family heritage. And she was supposed to write something on her Polish heritage. And she came back with a paper that was written about the Tylenol murders. And her professors, her teachers were floored. They didn't even know that they had a student in the school that had a connection to the Tylenol murders. So they sat down with her and the family and they said, listen, still write the Polish heritage paper because we want you to focus in on, you know, the family and all of the traditions that you grew up with. And the family was a close family, Brad. This was a family that, you know, they gathered for desserts and pierogies. Everything was family, family, family. They stuck together. This was a devastating blow to them. And this little girl, now 12, Isabel Janis, this is what she relates to. She knows about the murders. She knows her uncles and aunt were murdered. And she writes this paper. And you know what she says in it? Her goal one day is to be the person that solves the crime. She wants to investigate as she grows up. She wants to learn some of these skills. And she wants to try to find who did it.
She might be the one. This all went down September 29th, 1982, September 29th, 2022. 40 years later, unsolved. You are doing the anniversary piece. What do viewers and why do viewers need to watch that?
This is a piece of history. This is a piece of history in Chicago history and in our nation's history that changed everything that has to do with anything you buy on a store shelf, whether it's a pill or something you eat, and the protective sealants and coatings and coverings. That's what this led to. But because this wound has never had a chance to heal, the crime has never been solved, you have these families that have lost 7 people, and there's never been anyone brought to justice. So we hope people walk away with the essence of this family, the Janus family, and the generational trauma they carry with them all the way down to this most current generation. Young people should see this story to understand what happened in this country, in the city of Chicago back in 1982. A lot of us will remember being there. I was in high school when this all happened. I remember cleaning out the medicine cabinet at home and getting rid of the Tylenol. We all did. It's what everybody did. It's like Tylenol comes off the shelves everywhere. It's destroyed. It's gone. We want people to see the heroes that stopped it at 7. The ones that found out it was Tylenol was the common denominator right away. Lieutenant Chuck Kramer, Nurse Helen Jensen. And we're going to show you some of the police that were involved, unrelated to the task force and the agents, but the local police.
Wow.
Going into homes to try to find Tylenol in the victims' homes that had already died. And they wanted to make sure they got every bottle that might have been possible where they knew there was a contamination case. What they did in those first moments. It's really about the heroes and the family that meant everything to maybe not solving the case, but just stopping and controlling the damage and death toll.
Dave Savini, CBS 2 investigator, friend of the stream. We appreciate your insight. And thank you for joining us on the stream. Again, this is part of a much bigger project, a massive undertaking here at CBS News Chicago. It has now been 40 years since 7 people died after taking extra strength Tylenol laced with cyanide, a crime never solved. A body is never laid to rest, they say, until there is some type of justice. In this case, there is not. That's why we are working on this docuseries. It is called Painkiller, unsolved, now 40 years. Here's a preview of that.
It was probably one of the first acts of domestic terrorism.
A frightening pattern began to take shape some 5 hours later in the neighboring suburb of Arlington Heights.
When you live through something like that, you'll never forget it.
This was a terrible tragedy for 7 families.
It took my life, shattered my life and my family life.
Calls have been coming into the investigative task force so heavily that all 7 lines into the center have been almost constantly jammed.
If it can happen with this, what else can happen?
Have you found the common denominator?
No, sir. We're working in conjunction with Johnson & Johnson in an effort to determine if there is a common denominator.
Who would think of that? What kind of mind thinks about that?
The search for the Tylenol cyanide killer continues to center on this photograph.
Have you ever done an interview about this?
No, only with the FBI.
7 people? You're gonna let a murderer just go?
Why can't the authorities arrest this man? He's a madman.
Kansas City Police Sergeant David Barton was watching an evening news broadcast when he saw a picture of a man who looked familiar.
I jumped off the couch, said, "That's damn James Lewis."
You remember the name Lewis?
I just told you that 3 times.
Just another one of the ups that plague this case.
We're actively pursuing this investigation. This is not collecting dust on the shelf.
I don't think it'll ever be solved. For 40 years, you would think that somebody would say something.
You ever seen this guy?
Hi, Mr. Lewis.
If this was on the shelves then, we wouldn't be sitting here now.
were gathered in the 1500 block of South Keeler Avenue just before 1 a.m. this morning.
Was it a birthday celebration? What was that gathering?
I believe it was a birthday celebration for one of the victims of the party that was attended was all female.
Something has to be personal. Why would you just unload on a yard or a house full of women that was here on the outside celebrating someone's birthday?
Gaynor, 2 of those victims were transported here to Mount Sinai Hospital early this morning in critical condition, and we have learned that one of those victims has died from their injuries.
Kanisha was a funny everything. She was so outgoing. She was the queen of the world.
We want the name of the person responsible to come forward and turn himself in or her in.
Unbearably hurt. That's my oldest daughter.
Is there any evidence that it can indicate that the victims were targeted because they were women?
We don't have any evidence of that right now, but we're still very early in the investigation, so we're looking at all avenues.
In all, Chicago police say 271 people have been murdered so far this year, and there have been 1,074 shootings.
Look, I knew what I was inheriting when I became the mayor of the city of Chicago.
You can't get up. Let me go outside. You can't even go outside no more.
It is heartbreaking that a mother has to bury her 21-year-old daughter that leaves 2 kids. That's heartbreaking. I have a 15-year-old daughter, and to think that I'll let her go out into the world and something like this tragically happened to have a good time at a luau. I'm heartbroken.
What you got left, you just try and hold on to it as close as you can. Don't let your kids outside.
Financial freedom is when you are living at a place of wholeness.
My financial motivation.
Kanisha Gaines was a 21-year-old mother of 2 children who was described as a happy and outgoing person. Kanisha was a go-getter. She had 2 different career paths, one as a home healthcare worker and another as a hairstylist. As a stylist, she worked for herself, and her business was called Cutie Collections. According to her website, she performed quick weaves, sew-ins, and customized wigs. She often posted her work online, as well as tips she used to help other stylists.
Body, crib, got it, job on it. Did I ever ask you to take me to go shopping in Paris or go sailing overseas and just drape me in Gucci? No. All I ever asked was you to pick up the phone when you alone. All I ever asked was you to show me some love, kisses and hugs. No, I never had an issue. Go to the club with your boys, baby. I never wanted you to stay too long, just wanted you to show me up. So won't you say my name, say my name? If you claim you want me, it ain't no thing. You acting kinda shady. You ain't been calling me baby, boy, you can go stop playing games.
Although Kanisha was young, she had a lot going on for herself. That's why many people are devastated about her loss. She grew up in a rough environment where tragedies happened too often. According to her mother, Natasha Graham, she was always a tough parent, but became even more strict after her 18-year-old son was fatally shot in 2019.
Kanisha's 18-year-old brother, Keyshawn, was a victim of gun violence in 2019.
Well, what you got left, you just try and hold on to it as close as you can. So I'm going to continue to be the strong one. I'm going to help my family, and we're going to make it past this.
Her mother was so proud of the young woman Kanisha was becoming, but she did worry about her daughter a lot. Sadly, weeks before the tragedy, Kanisha was planning to move back home with her mother on the south side.
So I told her too much stuff going on. I want her to come back home, and she was actually preparing to do that, and we didn't even make it to the first.
But unfortunately, she never got the chance. Kanisha was senselessly murdered at a birthday party by a group of masked men.
Chicago
Chicago police responded to 29 shootings over the weekend. And according to the police department, there were 47 shooting victims, 5 of whom died from their injuries. And today at a North Lawndale church, the Chicago Police Department offering assistance to those impacted by a mass shooting that happened there yesterday.
Absolutely, Anthony and Natalie, a horrible, heinous shooting here on the city's west side. In fact, many neighbors that we spoke to have continued to be stunned by the shooting that took place, mainly because most of the victims, 8 of them, were all women. Now, inside the Deliverance Temple of the Apostolic Faith Church right now are victim advocates, therapists, and detectives, all collaborating to bring this community answers fast. Overnight Saturday, 8 women were shot while attending a luau-themed party nearby.
There's a coward amongst our community will take out their frustration and shoot women. We're supposed to protect our women in our communities.
You don't often, this is not something that's normal where 9 people are shot at one time. If it's your son, if it's your grandson, if it's your nephew, if it's your friend, if it's your cousin, we must speak out.
These children, not only my daughter, but every child that got shot there, they deserve some type of justice. They really do. Because our kids, our teenagers should be able to go hang out.
And really, guys, just so many questions remain about the shooting. My photographer and I, Todd, we've been walking around the neighborhood, knocking on doors, trying to speak with neighbors to figure out what exactly they know. More from Alderman Scott. She told us that the majority of the victims, if not all of them, were not from this neighborhood. Also, those victims' ages range from 20 to 33 years old. One woman that was shot was actually struck 8 times. That woman at last check remains in critical condition. Police do tell us that the shooters remain at large.
It was Saturday, July 29th, 2023, when Kenesha went to a birthday party celebration with friends. The party was a Hawaiian luau theme in Chicago's North Lawndale area. Everything was going fine at the party until around 1 a.m. in the early morning. Suddenly, a group of armed masked men turned up to the gathering in a Jeep. They got out and sprayed the crowd with a hell of bullets, striking Kenesha in the face. Other women, said to be her friends, were also struck during the ambush. Unfortunately, the group of men were able to get away.
What I gather, that I heard that when they jumped out of the car, they said, "We got you, bees." So it was intentional. Wasn't like it was a random. It was intentional.
How large was the gathering that was going on?
They were having a luau, so I think it was a pretty big gathering. And I think it was majority all women. So it's devastating.
A 28-year-old woman was shot 8 times in her torso. A 20-year-old woman was shot in her right thigh. A 24-year-old woman suffered a gunshot wound to her right wrist. Another woman, 28, was shot in her right knee. A 30-year-old woman suffered 2 gunshot wounds to her right shoulder and 2 more to her right arm. A 31-year-old woman was grazed in the leg and forearm. A 33-year-old woman suffered a grazed wound to the stomach, and another woman, whose age wasn't released, was grazed in the right arm.
This is not just delivery.
Kenesha was rushed to the hospital but sadly died, despite the best efforts of emergency medics. Police said the other women are expected to survive and will remain anonymous during this time. Authorities don't know what was behind the incident and have no one in custody for the shooting.
This shooting left a 21-year-old woman dead and 8 others injured. Our deepest condolences are with the family of the young woman who was killed, and our detectives are working hard to identify and apprehend the people responsible for this shooting. We ask anyone with information to please submit an anonymous tip through cpdtip.com or contact Area 4 detectives at 312-746-8252. Our crime victims advocates have been working throughout the past 24 hours to reach out to the victims and connect them with resources as they begin to process what happened. Crime Victim Services has also set up an assistance center that will open shortly at 1 p.m. and will remain open until 7 p.m. tonight at the Deliverance Temple Church of the Apostolic Faith at 1457 South Comiskey Avenue. This assistance center is open to anyone who has been affected by violence including yesterday's shooting in North Lawndale. Our crime victim advocates and our community partners are here right now, they're right now getting ready to assist anyone who needs support. When acts of violence occur, it's more than just direct victims and their families who are affected. This violence creates a ripple effect that can touch an entire community. This includes the children who heard the gunfire in their neighborhood or the family who lives down the street from where the shooting occurred and saw the aftermath. Though we know the trauma of violence never fully heals, our hope is that we can provide support and advocacy to those affected as they learn to live with the experiences they carry. I'll now take a question.
Hi, Jackie Cardenas for Block Club Chicago. I'm here to ask a confirmation question. 9 women were shot on the 1500 block of South Keeler early Sunday morning, but we don't know exactly, what the gathering was. Was it a birthday celebration? What was that gathering?
I believe it was a birthday celebration for one of the victims, but it was actually one was a male, but we can't associate him exactly with that. But we did have a male who was in that area, and we're still investigating that part of it.
Okay.
Hi, Terry Keshner, WBBM Radio. About the Keeler shooting, I'm sorry, was that, you just said, was the male one of the victims?
Well, a male showed up at the hospital and he said he was shot in that area. So we don't exactly know, but we're treating it as he was shot somewhere in that area, although the party that was attended was all female.
Do you think that, is there any evidence that anything to indicate that the victims were targeted because they were women? Because it appears that most of them obviously were not.
Right. We don't have any evidence of that right now, but we're still very early in the investigation. So we're looking at all avenues right now.
Ms. Robinson, I want to see if maybe you could speak about women being victims of crime, females, them coming forward. Is that a more difficult thing? Is that a different thing?
We provide services and we try and do outreach regardless of who that victim might be. So we're extremely open to whoever's a victim. Of course, historically, we had the domestic violence program where the majority of victims have been female. But as everybody hopefully knows right now, that males and females can be victimized at the same time. Is it concerning that a group of women possibly were targeted? It's concerning to me when anyone's targeted at a party where they just got together to celebrate each other. The fact that it was a group of women, we are having some gender-based violence services available in case the women come forward and they have issues specific to their gender.
Since the incident, her family has spoken out several times about rumors and hoping someone would come forward about the incident. Here is a live video of a family member speaking out.
I swear to God, these little girls playing in her face, and I'm finna play back. I ain't gonna lie to you, I'm gonna play back. Hello. Ain't no way motherfuckers don't know a goddamn thing. Y'all know what the fuck going on, and don't nobody want to talk. Don't nobody want to say shit. Y'all weird as hell, but don't want to say nothing. Then a motherfucker go block me and she's like, what you blocking me for? What you feeling some type of way? Because I'm feeling some type of way about my niece for. Holla at me.
This is my comeback. Start yours at purdueglobal.edu.
Got here, y'all know how I'm coming. I don't even do this live shit. But the only time I get on live is when y'all make me feel some type of way. Stop getting on here talking about my niece, and you know you ain't gonna talk about what happened to her. It's kind of weird to me how your weird block me though. How you block me and you mad because I feel some type of way, baby?
Scratch your ass and get glad, bitch.
I ain't gonna even lie to you though. Everybody know what it is with me. Y'all weird as hell. I swear to God, if it wasn't for Kanisha, I'll send it to the moon. She ain't got no best friend. All that shit dead. She got family in that shit. She ain't got no motherfucking friend. That's what it is. Because all y'all weird people, y'all know what the fuck going on. Ain't nobody talking, but y'all want to be weird. On Facebook, making statuses and shit. I don't like none of y'all. to be honest with you. I wish my niece had stayed away from all y'all, but she didn't. She ain't listen to me. But if she had to listen to me, bro, she wouldn't have been around. She wouldn't have been around that. Now, everybody can face their facts and all of that. We 3 for 3, all of that. But a 3 for 3 ain't no snitching, bro. You ain't snitching if you telling what happened to your 3 for 3. She wasn't in the streets. Come on now, that's a different story if she was in the streets, bro. Come on, talk that shit, bro. She wasn't in the streets, y'all. Weird as hell. She wasn't in the streets. She ain't know what the was going on. You put them up, you bring them up to a scene, you think they don't know what the going on? Get the fuck out of here, bro. You weird as hell, G. She ain't know what the was going on. Fuck out of here. She died because another decided to make a bad decision and they backfired. That's what the fuck happened. Fuck out of here. Ain't no setup. I ain't never say a motherfucker set my niece up. Let's be clear. While running around saying that shit, I ain't never say a motherfucker set my niece up. I said a motherfucker set that girl up. That's what I said. And it backfired. Nah, we can talk about it now. It's all out there now. Now, let's be clear. Because none of the bitches that was hanging on my knees standing in the crowd with her, she want to shut you down. Shut the fuck up talking to me. What's up?
Y'all need to stop playing, like, for real.
I was humble enough. She gone in the ground now. What's up? Y'all real stupid. Real stupid. Right. Weird people. Out here, sitting up here talking all that weird shit. You her best friend. You this. Y'all that. Y'all this. But ain't nobody came to talk to us. But I heard motherfuckers got pictures. I heard motherfuckers got text messages. Some more shit. Why we ain't get it? Why we ain't know? So weird out of here. I'm with all that today. What's up? Got whole screenshots in their phones, but I got to beg them up for it. I asked for this days. Motherfuckers said that shit in their phone since the day it happened. Motherfuckers ain't dropped shit up until I start begging for that shit. Out of here, y'all weird as hell. Come on. Don't get to telling me about how I feel, because I feel some type of way because y'all want moving no right way. Man, they ain't gonna never tell the police. We have a better chance of finding this shit out ourselves. Motherfucker ain't gonna never talk to the police. Motherfucker scary than a motherfucker. Motherfucker talking about some, well, I don't want my name on black and white. What the fuck is you talking about? Tired of being humble. Fuck out of here. It is what it is.
The truth is, you're not the same person that you were back then.
I guess that's true.
Damn, wanna always scream all this. Best friend this, best friend that. Get your weird on. I didn't heard this shit from the herself that's in the hospital bed still to this day. Yo, back though, I'm not trying to hear none of that shit. Motherfucker talking about black and white. It's the difference in snitching and being loyal. So obviously you're not loyal to my sister, little girl. Obviously you're not. You ain't loyal. You ain't got no loyal bone in your motherfucking body. If you ain't want to talk to us, you could have talked to the police, but you don't want your name. So you not shot for real. Your is grave. Because I swear to God on my kids, on my dead mother, on my daddy mother, saved your all day. I was on your all day. And I told to your face when my sister was going in the ground, you was showing fake love. You ain't want to go with your move. How you know what's up with me? You fake as hell, G. On my kids. I can't see you on no day. You talking about not today on no day. You won't even come around right now. On my kids. Literally. I don't feel that shit, bro. On God, that's why I'm mad, TT. You should have let me go with my mood, G, because this ain't even finna come back around. On Jesus. This ain't finna come back around. This finna be high now.
It was just a point of why the You blocked me. Why you blocked me? What you had to
That's what
do
I'm
to
saying.
me
You
for?
blocked me too. You blocked me too. Oh God. At the end of the day, on my kids, you can't say we acting funny. You can't say we bogus or none of that. Want me to tell you why? Because you went to the hospital and talked to this girl for one and showed her all type of screenshots of texting you talking about they know who did it or whoever, whatever. We don't know this. We ain't got this. You can't be my sister's best friend. And any rocking with you, I'm not rocking with them. I die behind this little girl right here. All you talking about?
Every last one of you. I ain't
Every
gonna lie
last
to you.
one of them, I'm not playing. All that. At the end of the day, my mama died when I was 13, and I know how it feel to live without a mama. These kids 3 and 2, so they got a whole life ahead of them without a mama. Ain't nobody gonna treat them kids like they mama gonna treat them, because ain't nobody treat me how my mama would have treated me. You talking about, oh, yeah, we can do whatever. Me, I can do whatever about clothes. I can buy shoes, all that. I'm still not them kids' mama. At the end of the day, I'm still not them kids' mama. I'm like auntie. And it ain't, that's just sad, bro. Y'all don't know what my little sister on some real shit. This girl bossed up when she had them kids. Her kids was her world. What you talking about? Treasure was sad. All that day was sad. Her face, she cried all that day. Kimaria was sad too. But Treasure, that little girl, that shit gonna hurt when she get older, bro. That shit bogus. At the end of the day, you not loyal.
At this time, authorities are asking anyone with information to please contact their local authorities. The day after the attack, community groups and police gathered down the block to offer crisis counseling and make police available to answer questions. The purpose of the temporary center was to help victims get on the path of healing. However, community members believe it will take a lot more to see change in Chicago.
One woman says she used the services and she was pleased with it, but since it's only open for one day, some community activists say that's not enough.
It makes a big difference if it's going to be here and stay here.
CPD says the center will address financial losses, help stress with therapy dogs, and victims can talk to detectives to follow up on their cases.
This is an opportunity for us to get into the community and to expedite crisis services and referrals to crucial recovery services.
But Holmes says since it's only open for one day, more needs to be done.
I like the effort. I like the support, but if it's just for today, ain't gonna work. Dog and Pony Show ain't gonna work.
You guys probably already seen this story on our Instagram or our website. I wanted to make sure I do the visual portion because a lot of people asked me about information on this. This was a mass shooting that was not handled like the rest. I don't feel like this got the attention that it deserved, and I hope the victims are getting the help that they truly need. I hope that Kanisha's family receive justice, and I pray they get the answers that they need. Let's continue to use our discernment. Let's stay aware. Let's stay alert. I thank you all so much for watching, and I love you all dearly. With that being said, please don't forget to check on your loved ones.
Good afternoon. Following yesterday's senseless act of gun violence, the Chicago Police Department's Crime Victim Services team began the process to set up an assistance center that will be opening shortly at 1 o'clock today. After an incident of violence, victims most often have the need to feel safe. That's most often accomplished by the arrival of police and by the provision of medical services. Following that are the next steps where Crime Victim Services come into play. How is it that we can help that person or persons get on the path to healing after following a traumatic event? We're going to start to do that today by the opening of the Assistance Center. What is an assistance center? An assistance center is a designated space that offers services to victims, co-victims, family members, friends, and community members impacted by major incidents. This is an opportunity for us to get into the community and to expedite crisis services and referrals to crucial recovery services. Who's served by the Assistance Center? Today's Assistance Center has been activated to serve victims of this weekend's gun violence. We are also serving family and friends of victims, witnesses of the incidents, residents, and the affected community at large. We're able to serve others impacted by violence not necessarily related to the 10th District incident from this past weekend. What are some of the services that are provided? Immediate crisis counseling, safe space to ask a question, financial losses that may have incurred as being the result of being a victim of crime. We are able to complete crime victim compensation applications on site and begin that process. Address stress and just needing down and quiet time, and maybe spend some time with the therapy dogs that will be present. Talk with a detective if you have questions about your case or if you have information and you would like to speak with a detective. If you're experiencing domestic violence and you want to talk to someone confidentially, we have certified domestic violence counselors on site. If as a result of the injury that you incurred, you need durable medical equipment, we're able to help facilitate that and expedite getting that equipment to you. How do you know if you need services? The best answer is, if you're asking yourself this question, please come out to the Assistance Center and we'll do a quick assessment to see what services are needed, even if it's only to express the concerns that you have and you need a safe space to share them. If you would allow me to quickly introduce our community partners who answered phone calls on this wonderful Sunday Chicago afternoon to answer the call and come up and support the Assistance Center. The Helen and Joe Foundation, Lutheran Church Charities Canine Ministries, UCAN Community Services, and of course our Assistance Center host, Deliverance Temple of the Apostolic Faith Church. The need to feel safe is universal. In the chaos of a mass incident, finding answers can be overwhelming. The Chicago Police Department Crime Victim Services staff and our partnering agencies are available today to provide assistance. Our services are confidential. A police report is not needed. The Assistance Center opens at 1 o'clock and will run until 7 p.m. this evening at 1457. No appointment is
Channel 2 investigation has found that the Chicago Housing Authority wasted millions of dollars on low-income housing that was never finished. It was part of a court-ordered program to de-emphasize high-rise projects and instead fix up smaller buildings on sites scattered throughout the city. But the Channel 2 investigative team has found that the CHA has turned scattered sites into scattered slums. Tonight, Pam Zeckman reports on why the largest contracts awarded in the program have become the CHA's biggest failures.
This is the only heat in Edna Warfield's Southside apartment. Conditions are so bad that she and her 3 children desperately want to move into public housing. They're among thousands of families on the waiting list.
All I want is some heat. I am tired of being cold.
Each night, the family goes to sleep afraid that their apartment will catch on fire.
I hope God does the stove or nothing don't explode while we laying up there sleep. If anybody got any kind of building out there, if they got an apartment that I can pay, let me know. Please.
About a mile away from the Warfields, these CHA row houses have been sitting vacant and boarded up for years. They're part of 2 contracts to build or renovate 234 apartments scattered around the city, homes that poor people could be living in. Most of the apartments were never finished, and the $8 million budget is now gone. CHA records show that one reason why the money's gone is the agency paid for work that was not done. In this 6th flat, the agency paid $2,000 for new hardware. It was never installed. Paid $3,000 for all the plastering. It was not all done. Paid $10,000 for rough carpentry. It wasn't finished. In fact, work in 2 of the 6 apartments was never even started. The contractor was Gerald Cantor, president of Industrial Structures Incorporated, ISI. Cantor was hired by the CHA despite his bad track record with the agency. In 1981, the CHA staff said the quality of his previous work was very unsatisfactory. They would not recommend hiring the company again. But 4 months later, the CHA hired Cantor anyway. They gave him the Scattered Sites contract because Cantor was the low bidder. Now the CHA is trying to undo the damage. Here, the circuit breaker panel was installed without a cover, leaving live wires exposed. At other buildings, electrical outlets were not properly installed. And at this building, the electrician used the wrong wire. It's not heavy enough for the current.
It's just sloppy workmanship, carelessness.
That can result in what?
Well, it can result in the fire and the loss of property and, more importantly, loss of life.
In several buildings, the plumbers damaged important support beams when they cut them to install pipes. The CHA later hired another contractor to repair the weakened beams. In this apartment, the tenants have to use kerosene heaters to stay warm. Cold air blows in through gaps in the walls, and the back door doesn't fit properly. You can see daylight where there's a big space. An important vent for the furnace was supposed to be installed in this hallway, but the contractor put it in a bedroom where it's blocked by the door.
It's very cold in here. Like I said, we all have to stay in one room, to keep warm.
The contractor, Gerald Cantor, says the construction problems were the result of poor planning by the CHA. He says if the CHA had any complaints about the quality of the work, they should have notified him. And he denies getting paid for work that was not done.
The only thing that we were paid is for the work that CHA inspectors approved.
Our investigation found that this construction project was doomed from the beginning. The plans drawn by CHA architects were often incomplete and led to cost overruns. Sometimes the blueprints even called for work that violated city building codes. Take this one building, for example. There was no provision to comply with the fire code when the enclosed back porch was made into a bedroom. The building's main plumbing line was too small to provide enough water, and the plans called for glass blocks in the basement windows. Building inspectors say they seal the room so tightly that it can cut off air needed for the safe operation of the furnace.
The problem is that the people will be asphyxiated with carbon monoxide poisoning.
By August of '84, the CHA had spent 3/4 of the budget, but only 1/4 of the apartments were finished. The CHA canceled its contract with ISI, but the problems got even worse. Most of the buildings just sat for a year and a half while vandals and thieves went to work. Stolen here, all the fixtures from the bathrooms and kitchens. Stolen $4,000 worth of copper pipe, nearly $7,000 worth of doors, and $10,000 worth of heating ducts and furnaces. The CHA says it will cost $30,000 to redo the walls and floors damaged by the lack of heat and the snow that comes in through broken windows. The building was 90% finished a year and a half ago. The CHA has already paid the contractor $217,000. Now the CHA says it will cost another $226,000 to finish the job. And while the buildings sit vacant, the CHA is still paying interest on the money it borrowed for the construction. Interest alone is $6,000 a day, $4.5 million that could have been used for construction, lost because of delays by the CHA. The CHA is now working on a few of the buildings, but says it needs $16 million more from the federal government to finish the job. The request is being reviewed in Washington. CHA officials refuse to comment about industrial structures because of pending lawsuits.
Chicago Housing Authority has wasted nearly $750,000 on apartment buildings that now have to be demolished. They were supposed to have been remodeled for low-income families as part of the court-ordered plan known as the Scattered Site Program, but it hasn't worked out that way. The Channel 2 investigative team found that because of the delays by the CHA, many of the buildings deteriorated so badly they turned into scattered slums. And as Pam Zekman reports, there is nothing left to do but wreck them.
These are the remains of an apartment building that was supposed to be renovated for low-income families by the Chicago Housing Authority. It's one of 6 buildings the CHA has bought and then demolished, and a CHA official has recommended tearing down 6 more because it's not feasible to fix them up. The CHA bought this building in 1981 for $47,000. 22 families were evicted. Over the next 4 years, building inspectors witnessed brick stealers at work. They stole so many bricks, the building collapsed. Last August, the CHA paid another $6,000 to have the rubble hauled away. This building was demolished after the CHA had already begun to remodel it. Construction stopped after the builder found termites. For 2 years, the CHA could not decide what to do. Meanwhile, according to city records, the building was ravaged by brick stealers. They literally stole the building out from under the CHA. Walls collapsed on a power line. It terrified the neighbors.
And the wires fell down and the posts caught on fire. And if I was standing on the back porch, I'd have got killed, electrocuted.
A judge finally ordered the lot cleared. Now the neighbors use it to grow vegetables. It cost $50,000 to buy the building, $15,000 to relocate the families, $52,000 for administrative costs, $100,000 to remodel it, and $8,000 to demolish it. That's $225,000 for a vegetable garden.
That's terrible. That is terrible. To have to spend all that money and not get nothing out of it. And all these people that need homes, they really need homes around here. In this neighborhood, terrible. I mean, there ain't nobody here that don't need a home.
The CHA bought this building in 1980 for $43,000. 8 families were moved out. Empty, the building began to fall apart, creating hazardous conditions. A CHA employee warned in this memo that the front balcony was about to collapse, a hazard to the local winos who drink there. She said they might end up dead or rich from a lawsuit. The CHA spent nearly $3,000 to take down the balconies and $6,000 more on maintenance. Now the staff is recommending that the entire building be torn down.
The Scattered Site Public Housing Program in Chicago is in shambles.
Professor Ed Marciniak was appointed by a federal judge to study the Scattered Sites program. He concluded that the program has been so poorly run that it actually hurts the people it's supposed to help.
The poor and low-income families are suffering, and the supply of housing decreases because they kick these families out and left the buildings empty.
The empty buildings also hurt entire neighborhoods. The CHA bought this building in 1981. Here it is now, after fire and heavy vandalism. The CHA's original estimate to rehab the building was $278,000. Now the estimate is nearly $1 million.
It's awful because CHA could have did much better if they had tried, but they didn't try.
Members of the Block Club say the building has attracted muggers, rapists, and rats. A judge in housing court ruled the building is dangerous. He's ordered the CHA to tear it down.
They are slumlords, worse than slumlords. They are not really lords. They own the property, but they are bringing the entire neighborhood down.
They're also wasting money. When you add up all the costs for acquisition and relocation, some construction and demolition, the CHA has spent at least $750,000 on buildings that have to be demolished. CHA Commissioner Leon Finney says he hopes the CHA can make up for some of the damage to the neighborhoods by building new housing where old buildings were torn down.
Dozens of apartments in Chicago that were supposed to provide housing for low-income families are uninhabitable. And there are substandard conditions in dozens more that have been remodeled by the Chicago Housing Authority. The Channel 2 investigative team found many of the problems were created by architects hired by the CHA. The architects were working on a program to decentralize public housing by renovating homes on scattered sites throughout the city. But as Pam Zeckman reports, the scattered sites have become scattered slums.
This is one of 71 houses the CHA was supposed to remodel at a cost of $3 million. But the project ran out of money. Work in 12 of the buildings was never even started. And the CHA says half the ones that were finished still have major code violations.
My reaction to that is that's a terrible waste has occurred.
CHA Commissioner Leon Finney says the waste has hurt the people who need housing and the neighborhoods that are left with boarded up eyesores.
And it's hurt our integrity as an organization that is committed to building and developing housing for the poor.
Our investigation traced many of the problems to outside architects hired by the CHA. Their mistakes led to huge cost overruns that helped bankrupt the program's limited budget. The architects worked for a firm called Archetype 3, formerly located here but no longer in business. Archetype 3 wrote specifications to tell the contractors what work to do, but builders told us the specs were inaccurate and incomplete.
Every one of our 16 buildings, we ran into this problem. There was major things which were just overlooked.
Channel 2 found that in 10 buildings, the architects either miscalculated the size of roof repairs or failed to mention them at all. Why? The architects told us they did not have ladders to inspect the roofs. The result? Additional repairs cost the taxpayers $20,000 more than was originally planned. The architects also said they failed to inspect several basements because they could not get in. As a result, the builder here did $40,000 worth of work upstairs before he realized there was trouble downstairs, a weak foundation. This is one of the supports that hold up the house. The problem is they're resting on a dirt floor. It's too expensive to fix, so now the CHA wants to tear the building down. In several houses, the architects told the builder to connect new furnaces to the existing ductwork. But there were no existing ducts. Installing them cost an extra $15,000.
You don't have to be an architect, don't have to be an engineer. Just a person with common sense could spot many of these apparent difficulties.
There were other cost overruns because the architects forgot entire rooms. Here, the plans called for work on a 2-bedroom apartment, but in fact, there are 4 bedrooms. They also forgot to include doors and closets, so the family living here stores their clothes in boxes. The total cost overruns for this building were $44,000, 58% more than the original budget.
The cost was astronomical as compared to what it should have been originally. It's so absurd.
The CHA remodeled this house in 1984. Now the work is being redone, literally from top to bottom, inside and out. Archetype 3 says the building was structurally sound when they turned it over to the CHA. But the tenants say that as soon as they moved in, they noticed a deep crack in the support beam in the basement. There's also a 2-inch gap between the beam and the floor it's supposed to hold up. Reynold Hudson is deaf. He spoke to us through an interpreter.
The wood looks like it's ready to rot away, and we're afraid it looks dangerous to us, and we're afraid it might fall and we'll get killed.
The CHA also says the building needs insulation in the attic and new plumbing because the pipe that carries foul-smelling sewer gas out of the bathroom had been cut off. The CHA is even going to rebuild the front porch and put up aluminum siding. Now the budget is 3 times what was originally planned. The 2 men who managed the project for Archetype 3 are Lincoln Calhoun, who is not a licensed architect, and Charles Smith, an architect and partner in the firm. They refused to be interviewed on camera, but off camera, they blame most of the cost overruns on delays and mismanagement at the CHA. They said the agency did not give them enough time to write the plans and did not have enough money to do all the necessary construction. They also said contractors insisted on extra work that was not needed. Smith said Archetype 3's construction plans were never intended to be exact, but he also admitted that his office made some mistakes. On a project like this one, he said, everyone makes mistakes.
CHA officials admit they made a mistake buying some of the homes in the first place. They say these homes were already vacant, boarded up, and in bad shape when the CHA took them over from the federal government. Now the CHA says it needs more federal money to finish the job.
The Channel 2 investigative team has found the CHA has spent $10 million, that's money out of your pocket, on apartment buildings it can't afford to renovate. The CHA bought the buildings to meet court-ordered deadlines to provide low-income housing throughout the city. But now, as Pam Zeckman tells us in her final report, the scattered sites are becoming scattered slums.
I'm mad because my taxes are paying for this. It's not providing housing. It's not fixing up. I don't know what business CHA is in, but they're not providing housing for people. They're wasting money.
Members of the Sheridan Park Neighborhood Association are angry at the CHA for its lack of progress on this North Side building. The CHA bought it 3 years ago for $167,000. Now the CHA cannot afford to fix it up.
It's criminal to let this go on.
Our investigation found that CHA officials lied to the federal government about the true cost of renovating hundreds of apartments. The reason they lied was to get approval for buying the buildings. Now the CHA is stuck with vacant buildings it cannot afford to renovate. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development has guidelines on how much federal money the CHA can spend to buy and renovate property. HUD will not approve a development if the cost is too high. So when the CHA wanted federal approval for the purchase of this building, it told HUD that renovation would cost about $93,000, and HUD approved the purchase. The CHA did not tell HUD that 3 different consultants had already said it would cost more, as much as $189,000. Here's another example. To get federal approval of this building, the CHA said renovation would cost $105,000. Again, HUD said okay, but the CHA's own consultants had already estimated that construction would cost nearly 3 times as much, $302,000. If they knew, should they have shared that information with you?
I would think so, certainly. We want any housing authority, we want any developer to give us their best estimates of anything like this, the best information they have.
Last year, when the CHA wanted federal approval for 33 buildings, it submitted cost estimates that were obviously phony. The CHA said the cost of remodeling each 2-flat, regardless of its condition, was going to be nearly $72,000. Remodeling each of the 3 flats, no matter how much work had to be done, was said to cost nearly $108,000. The pattern was repeated with 4, 6, and 12-unit buildings. This is one of the 6 flats on the list. The CHA told HUD that renovation would cost about $213,000, but the CHA's consultants had already said it would cost more than twice that much, $485,000.
Are you concerned that you might have been misled on these estimates?
If they had information available to them and they purposely submitted some other information that would lead us to approve a project, sure, that would be of concern.
The CHA's executive director admits that the estimates he gave the federal government were not based on the surveys by architects. The estimates that were used disguised the fact that the program was way over budget, a problem he inherited from previous administrations.
As an administrator, I have to move the program. I cannot sit and say to HUD, I am not going to build another unit until you give me all the money, or you give me some special dispensation from from the problems of the past.
The lies are now catching up with the CHA. Last summer, when the CHA wanted federal money to begin the renovation, it submitted these blueprints to HUD, showing all the work that needs to be done. And guess what? The renovation will cost $10 million more than the federal government will pay.
Now that HUD has the true costs, it's rejecting the CHA's plans, saying they excessively exceed even the cost of new construction.
Experience shows that it can be done for much less.
The federal guidelines allow an average of about $45,000 to buy and renovate each apartment. Now the CHA is telling HUD it will cost $70,000 for each apartment.
$70,000 per unit is not an acceptable cost to HUD.
CHA officials complain that HUD doesn't allow enough money for renovation, and while they lobby for more money, the CHA is trying to appease angry
Let me see if y'all can hear me. But some came to my phone just now, not too long ago. I guess this was posted 4 hours ago from the local news. And I'm try to share it with y'all. I didn't know nothing about this. I'm gonna have to look more into this little story, but it's only like 2 minutes because it's a news. It's coming from the local news. This is crazy. So let me do this real quick. Then I'm gonna go ahead and end this live, y'all. But if y'all still up, I mean, I'm up. You know, I got stories for days. I got videos for days. You know, I know everybody could be tired or whatever, but you know, I'll be up at least for another couple of hours. So I'm gonna drop back down and let's get to it. Let's see what this is about. It just came to my phone.
This is Sadie. She's on Verizon, and she's got the new My Plan, so she gets exactly what she wants and only pays for what she needs. She picks her perks and saves on every one.
Eleven-year-old Trinity Washington prepares for a second surgery this week.
My eye is in so much pain. My eye and my nose.
Sunday night, the girl had emergency surgery on her eye. She and her mother say the injuries happened after neighbors hosting a Mexican Independence Day celebration used a racial slur against the African American family.
That word shouldn't be used towards us. It shouldn't. It shouldn't be used towards anybody. Nobody should use that word because that's a bad word.
A few minutes later, two women allegedly attacked the girl when she didn't move her 3-month-old Yorkie out of their way. The 6th grade honor student and cheer captain named her puppy Barbie. Washington and her mom say Barbie was stepped on by one of the women but survived. Then they say the aggressors targeted Washington.
I looked up. A bottle came towards my face, being thrown to my face. I dropped down because I felt something hard. She punched me in my nose. When she punched me in my nose, I almost blacked out because I fell again.
I want justice. I want them to see her.
Washington's mother preferred for her face not to be shown on TV.
Everyone have been so supportive with just sharing the love, letting her know that she is beautiful. I'm just heartbroken that this happened to her.
For the girl who hopes to someday be a pediatrician, she says this is not only painful, but confusing.
I didn't do anything. I was just trying to put my dog in a house.
The police report the family shared with ABC7 classified this case as an aggravated battery of a child. Today, Chicago police tell us no one is in custody and the case is being investigated as Washington prepares for surgery tomorrow, hoping it will lessen her pain.
Watch breaking news on YouTube. Subscribe to ABC7 Chicago Eyewitness News.
When Arby's added bacon to the Wagyu Steakhouse burger,
I'm calling my dad. On the side with the
And made contact with the driver. The driver gave a fake name to the deputies and identified herself as Miava Latka Stern, but she was later identified as Shamia Lakita Jones. She advised she didn't have a driver's license on her, but her license was valid out of Maryland.
Hello, this is Winter Rhoda.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, good afternoon. The reason I stopped you is just the speed back there, just going a little fast.
I don't know if you came from back this way, but my boyfriend is on the side with the flat with my two
Oh
boys.
no, I haven't.
Okay, I was trying to get to them.
Where at? On
They're
West
right
100?
up here coming out of Bunnell. They
Uh-huh.
went to Daytona for the weekend.
Okay.
I mean, you can follow me if you don't.
No,
believe
no,
me, but
I'm not
they're
saying
right
I
up
don't.
here with the flat tires
Okay.
somewhere coming out of Bunnell, and I was just trying to get to
Okay, I got you. Do you have your driver's license
I
with
didn't
you?
grab nothing. I just
Okay,
jumped
you
in
just
the car
jumped in the
and
car
left.
to go. Okay, gotcha. And is this your vehicle?
No, ma'am. This is my boyfriend's mom's vehicle.
All right. And but you got a license, you just didn't
Yes,
bring it
ma'am.
with
My
you.
Ava Stern.
Okay. What was your first name?
My Ava, M-Y-A-V-A.
M-Y-A-V-A.
Stern, S-T-E-R-N.
Stern is the last name.
Yes, ma'am.
And do you have a middle name?
Lakita.
How do you spell that?
L-A-T-K-A.
And what's your date of birth?
5/16/88.
And what's the
I
address?
was born in Maryland, Florida. I live in Tampa.
And you have a Florida driver's license, or
It's probably still Maryland. I'm just down here, Christmas and everything just left, so I haven't went back yet.
is your license out of Maryland or out of
It's
Florida?
out of Maryland.
Maryland.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
And what's the address on your driver's license there?
It's in Maryland.
What city? What's going on?
I'm calling my dad.
Oh, why is that?
Hey, can you call my dad? I'm pulled over. I'm like right up the road from y'all, and I'm pulled over. I don't have a license, and I'm not from Florida, so I don't know.
I mean, have you ever had a driver's license?
Yes, ma'am. I mean,
You're good. If you got a license, you're good. Just because you don't have it with you, it's not a big deal as long as you got a good license. It's a permit? Oh, it's just like a learner's permit. But you at least have a license, right? It's not like you don't have one. I can work with you with that. I'm sure. It's like, I mean, you at least have a license. It's just saying you got to have like someone 21 with you, right? Is that what you're trying to say? It's a learner's permit where you just need someone 21? I can work with that. That's no big deal. Is this who is this right here?
They have a flat. This is coming to me. I'm
Sorry,
sorry, I
312
just get
fire.
Tic
Can
Tac.
I have 1069 code 2? I got another vehicle pulling up. This driver's license, she possibly doesn't have a good deal.
I told her my learner's permit is from Baltimore, and I don't know. It's a learner's permit. And
I can work with you with the learner's permit. That's not a huge deal. I'm telling you right now. Like, as long as you have something, it's like you've gone through the process. You just haven't got your permanent one. It's just I can work with that. That's not a huge deal. Like, I promise you, I can work with you. That was just another deputy's just going to stop out with him. Okay. And just till we get through or whatever, and then make sure he's okay on the side of the road. He's got that flat. I don't want him turning around and in the middle of the road here and getting stuck on West 100. That would be bad. Someone T-bone him. You said there was kids in the vehicle too, right? Okay, so yeah, we don't want that to happen. So your information is correct that you gave me, right?
Yes,
It's just the learners. All right. And you've never been in trouble before, right?
No.
Okay. All right. Yeah, learners is not that's I can work with you there.
I'm just not from here, and I'm just not too fond. Like I'm not saying you in general, but with all this.
Well, that's I mean,
I don't have anything. Search car, whatever. However, I'm just.
So, how long have you been here in Florida for?
We came down for Christmas.
Okay, but you're planning on going back up to Maryland.
We were supposed to go back after New Year, so we didn't go back.
Okay. Sorry, 312 fire on. 1065 name, no positive for 2729 out of Florida and Maryland.
Where are you going?
First name is Mike,
I don't-
Yankee,
I
Alpha,
don't know
Victor,
what's
Alpha.
going
The initial is,
on.
or actually I'll give you the full middle name, is Lima, Alpha, Tango, Kilo, Alpha. Last name is Sierra, Tango, Echo, Romeo, November. Bravo, Foxtrot, DOB is 51688, 51688. Import it. Is he going on, or is he?
What are you doing?
Oh,
Trying to get to my babies and you're leaving. I'm pulled over trying to get to you guys. I don't have any identification or anything. Oh my God, I'm so scared right now. She's waiting for another deputy. I'm trying to figure out.
no, we're just
why.
running your license. That's what I'm doing right now.
It's not even a license. It's like a learner.
Yeah, you told me a learner's permit. So you have a license. It's just a learner's permit means you have to have somebody 21 or older in the car with you while you
I
drive.
just came to get my babies. Oh my God. I'm so scared.
There's no need to be scared.
I don't get in trouble. Or
Where's your name? 312.
I just told her you were on the side of the road with a flat.
26.
She said
Is
I
there
was,
somebody has
I
rapid
was-
ID
I
to
didn't
come up here?
even like brake. I don't even remember hitting the brakes or anything, but
I can check with Charlie 110. If I get a Charlie 110, you scan something.
All right. Can you get off the phone so we can have a conversation real quick? Or you can put them on hold, something so me and you can talk? Ma'am, I'm speaking to you. Can you either put them on hold or something where me and you can have a conversation? Okay, can you turn off the car for a second for me?
yes, ma'am.
All right. So I am trying to provide you every opportunity to be honest with me. All right. Honesty goes a long ways, and it doesn't make little things into big things. When people start lying, it makes little things into big things. And I don't want to see that happen here. All right. With the information you provided me, you said you had a learner's permit. There's nothing coming back.
It's probably not.
Okay. So why is that? There's a reason. You haven't given me your right name. You don't have a license.
I did give you my name. I
Okay.
gave you my birthday. I gave you my address.
Okay. So why doesn't it come back with the learner's permit? Okay. You just don't have a license, period. Okay, I can work with that. I can work with that. It's just when you lie, it seems like there's a lot worse things going on. You've never had one? Okay, and how old are you? 23? Okay. I mean, that not having a license, there's way worse things people do out here than drive without a license. You know what I mean? I deal with way worse than that. All right. And I can work with you as long as you're honest with me. But when you start lying, then it makes things like little issues like this turn into big ones. So the information you gave me is correct with your information. You just don't have. Does he have a license?
Yes, he has a license.
Okay. Can he come back?
Is it the guy in the Charger?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Can he come back?
He can't tell. He said the tire.
Is that what you were coming down here for?
Yes, my
Yeah.
babies are in the car. It's a school night.
Okay.
And they live here,
Yeah.
I'm trying to,
So here's
take them to school in the morning, everything
Yeah.
before I leave out.
Yeah. Before you leave to go to Maryland. So your kids stay here, but you live in Maryland?
Yes, they
Okay.
live with their dad and grandma.
And that was
I
their,
have other children, but
yeah. And that was their dad they're with in that car trying to limp back to Palatka?
they don't live in Palatka.
Where are they trying to get to?
I think Crescent's. Where does your mom live? Palatka.
Oh, okay, Willaca. That's where they're trying to get
That's
to.
where we were for Christmas.
Okay. Is there any way that he can give you a ride back there?
Is his name Ty? Or something?
Is his name Ty?
Yes.
Okay. The thing is, if you don't have a license, I can't let you drive, right? So,
Okay.
I don't want you sitting here on the side of the road, like in the middle of nowhere.
Can I get out?
When
he has a valid license.
When he has a valid license, it can, at the most, we can just leave the car parked here on the side of the road, and he can pick you up.
Am I allowed to get out?
We'll get to that in a second. I mean, that's what I want to happen. All right. I just got to check a few things and just make sure, everything is okay. Like the information you gave me and all that is correct. And as long as that's correct, then yes, that's what I want to happen. That's what's going, like, that's my choice to happen. I don't want to arrest you for this. I could, but I don't want to, as long as you've been honest.
You
Yeah.
asked me to be honest.
Yeah,
and
you said you had a
I mean,
permit.
I did say I had a permit.
Yeah. So as long as you're giving me the correct information about who you are and it's just you don't have a license, I got bigger things going on tonight than you driving without a license. All right. Could you go to jail for it? Yeah, you could. Am I going to take you? No, as long as you've been honest from here on out about everything that happened. Okay. So see if he can come back here. All right. He's got a good license. And then you guys can figure out this car situation tomorrow.
He's not the one you have the protection order, or he has a protection order with, right?
Who?
An injunction?
That's his baby mother.
His baby mom? Okay.
I think
just want to make sure.
Let me go look some stuff. You just want to talk to her.
I totally got Botox Cosmetic for me. And this is like the first thing I've done for me in a really, really long time. As a mom, I think we put
You got a good license, man? You just want to walk over here? So she said she just doesn't have a license. I just got to make sure that, I told her, like, it's not a big deal. Like, yeah, she could go to jail for it, but that's not my plan. Just want to walk over here. As long as everything checks out okay, we can leave the car on the side of the road and she can just leave with you. All right.
I mean, I got my brother now coming.
Okay, if they want to drive the car or whatever, that's cool.
They gotta bring me a tire. I got a flat tire. Those ones driving on the side of the road like that.
I saw you sitting up there earlier. I didn't know if you had a flat.
Yeah, I got a flat tire on the front, and they came already, but they didn't bring the tire to it. I need to take the rims off. So.
Okay, yeah, we'll work with you guys.
Worst case scenario, y'all can put this in this car.
5-8, November 5-7, 4-1, 7-3, 7-9, 4 on a silver Pontiac.
Private Charlie 312, 313, private Charlie.
So, can you just stand over there? I don't want you to get hit by traffic. Just over there by the other deputy.
Charlie 2
Sergeant Park with the sheriff's office. Since we can't find any positive identification out of you, we're going to ask to submit your fingerprints. I can run through the system, see if I can pull something up to verify who you are. All right, so when you're ready.
But I'm not from here.
Doesn't matter.
Why all of this? What is all of this for?
You drive your motor vehicle in the state of Florida.
Why? Okay, but why is all of this necessary? I have 3 cars behind me.
Okay, because they don't have the technology that I have. Okay, so you are driving in the state of Florida. You have been pulled over. You are required to show some proof of identification. The name that you're providing, we're not able to find anything in the state of Florida or any other state that you're giving us. So let's just say my name is John Smith, and I run my fingerprints through here. If John Smith's in the system, it would verify that. That's what I'm asking you to do.
I'm pulled over.
So where is your driver's license and learner's permit out of? What state?
Yeah. I don't know what's going on, but they have like 3 cop cars behind me. I'm just letting you know.
Yeah.
And he wanted me to hang up the phone, so I got to hang up.
You don't have to hang up. You can keep talking. I'm just asking you a question. What state is your driver's license out of? Or learner's permit or whatever.
She's never had one.
Never had a license. So you don't have any form of identification on you? Nothing like that?
I don't have nothing on me.
So this just would help us confirm that you're not saying you give a false name. This helps confirm that you're not giving a false name and help us prove it, say who you are. So I'm requesting, would you want to submit your fingerprints so we can just resolve this problem?
And if I refuse, I'm still going to go to jail, correct?
I don't know yet because we're trying not to take you to jail. I'm trying to help identify you to prove, like you're saying,
Okay,
if your
but
name
if
is.
I refuse to give you my fingerprint, then what?
I'm not answering that yet because she is still digging through trying to find out who you are. This just speeds the process up and helps.
Okay, why can't we just wait till she finds who I am? Finds out who I am.
Right. So what state, where are you from? What state are you from? Like, you have no
I'm
idea.
from Baltimore.
Baltimore. Okay. And you have no.
Is there a reason why you wouldn't?
I'm right here where they got the flat tire at, like, almost like, remember I told you coming up 100 coming out of East Palatka? I was, but they didn't even make it to the store. They were trying to get to the store inching on the flat tire. I was trying to get to my kids.
Is there a reason why you wouldn't want to identify yourself? Yeah.
I'm like right here.
You don't have like anything like a library card, debit card, someone's name on a photo,
I
anything.
don't,
It's
I don't
just-
have anything on me. I jumped in the car. I left the house to come get my children.
So all we're asking you to do is put your finger on there so we can confirm who you are.
And I don't want to do that.
Okay. Is there a reason for that? Is it because you're not giving a proper name?
Okay.
Huh?
Okay. If I'm not here when she get here, somebody will get. I will give instructions to get her keys or whatever to her. Okay. 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 What did you say?
Oh, he walked away. I mean, do you not want to provide your fingerprints? I can help speed this process. I'm trying to identify you.
Okay. I have a child support rig.
Thank you. What is your name?
Shamaya Jones,
where is
April
it out
5th,
of?
1991.
Where is it out of?
It should be Putnam County.
Okay.
It's a $400
All right.
rig.
Thank
Yes,
you.
I know. I
Deputy
have it.
Pravat, what name she give you?
MYAVA.
No, she's just telling me she had a warrant out of Putnam County for child support. That's why she's not giving the right name. Right.
I just didn't want to go
Okay.
there, but
Well,
I'm going to get out. I know
we're gonna go.
I'm
All right, do me a favor.
gonna
Undo your seatbelt and just step out and keep your hands where you
All right, just keep your hands.
Can I roll her windows up?
No,
We'll take care of all that.
We'll roll up. We'll still work with you. You need to unlock the
I
door.
ain't trying to run in.
We're not saying.
She just said lock her car.
All right,
No, unlock
leave
the
it,
door.
leave it.
You're going to get
Leave it
pepper
there.
sprayed.
Leave
No,
it.
open the door. You said
Open the door.
I'm not doing
Step
nothing.
out. Step
I'm
out.
not doing nothing
Undo
crazy.
your seatbelt.
Can you let the windows up so I can turn
We'll
the
take care
car
of
off?
that. Undo your seatbelt. Undo your seatbelt and step out of the car.
Deputy Faircloth.
You don't have to
hold
touch
that.
me.
Yes, I am. You're trying to
No,
roll the
you
windows
don't.
up on. Undo your seatbelt.
Can you? Hey,
Undo
you
your
watching this?
seatbelt. Undo your seatbelt.
Cause y'all, no, cause
Hey,
y'all
all right,
doing
there
too
you go.
much.
Now
for
you can step
nothing,
out.
like-
Step out of the car. All right. We'll lock it up. We'll take care of all that. Step out of the car.
Step out of the vehicle.
Ma'am, step out of the vehicle.
All right, if you don't do what we have
All right.
asked you to do, we have to
I'm
make
going
you.
out of the
All right,
vehicle.
Come on out of the vehicle. I got your hands on arrest.
Okay, I know.
Right.
I know.
Step out.
Is it just for the rig though, right?
So far, that's all I know.
Okay.
All right, turn around. Hands on your back.
Hold on just a minute.
Yeah. Oh, she just got a proper name, man.
I'm fine. Sorry. I'm just.
All right.
Can y'all please like this? You had somebody else with him to
What
try
side
to
do
get
you
the
want?
keys
Wait,
to me,
hold
okay?
All you have to do is identify.
Step over here real quick.
I'm
Let's get out of the way. Let's
just
get out of the
saying,
way.
like,
I don't want to get hit.
you're the sergeant, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Can I talk to you, please?
Well, I've been talking. I've been trying to talk to you for the last 10 minutes by the car.
Now,
All right. Let me let.
can you just can y'all at least let him get my kids home? He
Come on.
had,
Let Deputy Pravat do what she has to do. Then we'll talk. Okay.
I just want him to go to jail. Yet we were trying to do. He had a flat tire. He had my kids. We
Who don't you want to go to jail? You? The warrant?
No, I have the warrant.
Okay.
But the protection order. That's we have the injunction.
Oh,
So now
well,
the warrant. Okay.
you weren't.
No,
he wasn't in the
please.
car with you. Like, he was in the car
Right.
with
That's
you.
what I'm saying.
I
I
asked him to come up here without
And he
that.
had somebody with him too. But my,
This is new info to me. She can explain it to you. 'Cause I have nothing
this
about a
is
protection
kinda-
order.
So
I
the
just
protection order, was there a protection order? I know, like Deputy Faircloth was asking, is it against him or somebody else in the car?
no, it was him. We didn't have, but that's why his brother was with him to meet me with the kids.
Well, when I
That's
stopped
it's
you-
listed in the injunction
Here, listen,
that his
listen
brother
to me.
can take.
She's gonna explain it to
Okay?
you.
When I stopped you, he wasn't in the vehicle or anywhere around you.
She good.
Okay.
I just want to make
So,
sure my baby's
I
get
asked
home.
him
That's it.
you were trying to get you a ride out of here. Okay, so we'll
And I
deal with that
apologize
second.
for
You
lying
know
to
that
you guys and giving you a hard
he's not
time,
going to go to jail for that.
but I
That's
knew
what
I
you're worried
had a rig. I
Okay.
have a child support rig.
All right.
Look.
That's all I'm aware of.
Okay.
about. All right. Do you have anything on you? It's going to poke us, stick us, stab us, hurt us?
Oh no,
Yeah.
no.
Anything?
She's the one that's on the protection order.
Yeah,
just
yeah, that's what he
discussed
just
that,
said. That. Okay. So what I need you to do is turn around, face the vehicle. I have to check you. All right. Make sure
Yes,
there's nothing
ma'am.
on you. All right. Spread your feet apart for me. A little bit wider.
Oh, sorry.
You're right. Is there any ID in that car? So now you're saying what your real name is. I can put a face to a name in there. Any ID in the car?
No, I don't have any.
All right,
That's
well-
not even my
All
car.
right. We'll look it up. We'll get it.
I'm scared,
Doesn't
man.
have
I'm
to-
scared.
We're not here to hurt you or anything, Dad. We're just trying to identify you because I'll be honest with you. When people give us a name and don't put a face to it, 9
I
times out
should
of
have been
10,
honest the first
they're,
time,
they're,
and
they're
maybe I
hiding
would
something.
have.
You know what I mean?
But I just didn't want to go
Is this your
through
sister's name or who is it that you're trying to use? What name is it?
that. What, Maya Stein?
Yeah.
That's my cousin. And yes, she does live in Maryland.
Okay.
Prayer.
She's like, I'm gonna lock the car door. I'm like, no, get out of the car.
And then that's why I came on this side and I unbuckled her because she wasn't even wanting to get out of the seatbelt.
Almost like this, you trying to restart the car.
Yeah, I took the keys out too.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, I grabbed them keys real quick because she did have her hand on that. That's what.
right here. Yeah, and I had the other one.
She
where
had
I
the
pulled
key on the
from, so-
ignition, and that's when I. That Shamika or Lakia is the fake name she gave me, so that's her.
And there you go. There it is. That's what I did.
So that's who she was. Oh, that was that's her. That's her. Yeah. Mavea. Okay.
Yeah.
Mavea was.
It's
the
got,
name. So that's her wallet then,
Yeah.
so that can go with her.
Yeah, I'm talking about
Jones was arrested for her outstanding warrants, providing a false name to law enforcement, and driving while license suspended with knowledge. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe for more. Let me know what you think about this incident down in the comment section below.